Okay, John in Florida, got your CRT here. Thanks for sending it in. Got it all set for you. Looks like it was brand new. I think you got it from Europe or something. I can't remember. Um, so I have it aligned for the right. Everything's good on it now. I mean, they're not bad out of the factory, but the sideband's a little overblown and typical things a lot of these radios have. This one has too. So it looks like you have a technician license. I saw your note there. So that's good. Looks like you just got it back in August. So maybe this might be your first HF radio. Although this is, typically used more in the CB market, it's still a good radio for HF. 12 meter it'll do in 10 meter and everything else in between. So, right now we're on 10 meters. So I have you set up in 5 kilohertz shifts, so you'd use this clarifier button, and you can only go a maximum of 20 kilohertz either way. So you would use your channel selector here, and there's 10 kilohertz down, so on and so forth. So that's set to 10 kilohertz. If for some reason somebody is operating somewhere different, then you can press this button, and when the numbers start to blink, now this becomes whatever you see. So if we want to go 1 kilohertz, say somebody's operating there, now you're receiving there, but when you press your microphone, you also need to adjust it there like that to match. So that's a setting built into the radio. You can change that if you don't like that way. There's different ways to do it. It also shows SWR on transmit. If you don't like that, you can shut that off in the menu too. So just because I set it up like this doesn't mean you have to run it like this. It's totally up to you. You can customize it to your radio, but I would recommend trying to learn everything about the radio. That way you don't get confused. I'm not a very good teacher, so I know you asked me to try to teach you a little bit about it. It's really more just getting out there and using the radio. That's going to be your best way to learn how to use it, is just doing it. Practice makes perfect, as you probably well know with the technician license that you have. Going into it, there was a lot of stuff you had to learn, and now you passed the test and you have the reward of having it. And the more that you use the equipment and the more that you use the license, the better you get used to doing everything that is involved. So for you, this radio is going to be more or less on the amateur band. Let me switch that back on the transmit. You see when you transmit it goes red. So I have it set in number F, letter F, I'm sorry. And from number 50 to number, was it 40? Number 40 to 60 would be your operating privilege for technician. And then some of this other stuff is just out of band, So you could use CW in here. I don't know how well CW works on this radio. I've never tried using it or anything, but it does have Morse code options, so you could use CW down in this range. I believe technicians can use CW on multiple HF bands if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not 100% sure. So there's that. If you go down to band A, you have the 12 meter band here, which you'd have to upgrade to a general class, and that's a very narrow band. It's 27 for voice, 930 to I think 980 or something, so you don't get a lot of range there for anyone, but it's a fun band when it's open, and it has been open quite a bit lately. So obviously you need a different antenna, usually a 10 meter antenna, depending on what you have. Obviously they make some wide banded dipole antennas, multi-banded, to do certain things. This radio is going to be a little more temperamental on antenna SWR. If you run an antenna tuner, I don't know how this radio would react to it, because it does not have a built-in antenna tuner. So it's always best with these kind of radios to get a antenna that's going to be resonant for the frequency that you're trying to use. If you go with a full-on HF set that's all band like this, then you have an antenna tuner in there, and it makes it a little more reliable. Cost-wise, these cost a lot more than something like this. So Depends on what you want to go with. You went with this. It's a good radio for a beginner, especially on 10 meter. The band has been open like every single day. It's open, so there's a lot of international stuff coming in, and then there's also a lot of stuff just from the U.S. and whatnot. So it's a fun band to be on. Of course, here we have the traditional CB band, which technically you shouldn't use on this radio, but it is here. If you want to listen around and stuff, you have all the normal channels and stuff like that. It will go up a little above that into like the upper frequencies, so you have all that stuff too. The same thing applies if you were to be on this popular channel and say you're just listening and someone is slightly off frequency. Just tap this button, and if you tap it, you can see the numbers start to blink. If somebody's slightly off frequency, you can dial them in like this. You're dialing them in on frequency versus just a regular like CB radio where you don't actually see the frequency that you're dialing them in on. Some you do now, but some you don't. But this would be hertz. So if the guy's 50 hertz off frequency, then there you go. You know, you'd have them in. You wouldn't want to change your transmit anyways because you want to stay on frequency, so that kind of thing. You're not going to really run into that too much on 10 meter or 12 meter. People are normally on frequency on those bands. It's just some of the CB stuff. Unfortunately, there's a lot of radios out there that were made in there. Although they have sidebands, some of them are not the best and shouldn't really be used there, in my opinion. But that's either here nor there. So you're probably going to run into that more on this band than anywhere else where people are slightly off frequency. And that's just, you know, CB is not supposed to be like super professional, although we've gotten to a point now where a lot of guys want it to be, and that's great. And there's radios out there even like this that would allow it to be like more professional and more precise and right on frequency. So, but it was never really designed for that in the beginning. It was just more for localized communication, I think. And then obviously they put it in the HF spectrum, so we're going to get propagation and worldwide propagation. Probably if they would have thought that through more, we probably would have a CB band similar to like the Australians where they're up in UHF, and then it's more close range stuff like that. So I'm kind of glad that we don't, but you know, it is what it is. If you get tired of the skip, wait a few more years, probably within I say between probably 2 to 5 years, the band will be dead and there'll be no skip. If there is, it'll be sporadic here and there, kind of like how it used to be. Right now, it's just absolutely crazy. So I don't know what else I can really teach you with. Like I say, I'm not a very good teacher. The radio is set up right. Show you a couple of features here. You have a noise reduction feature. You hold this function, then you tap the buttons. You can see the number changes. This one right here, number 8, if you turn that on, you can tap that to get out of there. When we go to FM mode, it'll be still kind of loud, but watch what happens when I turn it off. Much louder. So it's like a DSP noise reduction. It's non-adjustable. It's either on or off. I do find it works quite well. Some of this other stuff I'm not really worried about. This is your microphone type. I would always leave it here. If you're going to use the mic that comes with this radio, it is a dynamic mic. The mic that comes with it will also change the channels up and down on it. So that's something to keep in mind. It also has an auto squelch feature, which I don't know a whole lot about. I don't use auto squelch myself. That's more for FM, but it is useful for FM for sure. AM is going to probably be like you asked about the mode. So like AM mode is going to be more for like local stuff. Although you can talk across the country or across the world. It's not generally used much at all on amateur radio. So it's kind of like your lowest distance in a sense. The receiver's not going to hear as good there and transmit, although you can talk with propagation very far. Without propagation, AM is going to drop out the first, or the before any other mode. FM will usually have more range than AM. You also have better receiver sensitivity, and FM is widely used in amateur radio on 10 meter and most of the VHF and UHF and everything above that going forward. Sideband is going to be for your longest range and also for your longest receive range. So sideband takes up the least amount of bandwidth and the power is usually proportioned much greater distance than either FM or AM. So that's just my take on it. Guys that watch this video will probably, the guys that are heavy into like AM on CB will argue tooth and nail that AM is just as good, and I'm not trying to create controversy or anything like that, but it's from my testing and everything I've done, any radio I've ever tested that has AM and FM is far superior on receiver sensitivity than AM. So, and then sideband wins on all cases over AM or FM. So I hope that makes sense to you. Otherwise, it's just a pretty standard radio to use. You have your noise blanket right now, all that stuff. It's really hard. I don't want to be a teacher. Really, it's not my main focus because I have other radios to do and stuff like that. But there's a lot of information out there that you can look up if you don't know what things do. On the internet is kind of your friend. YouTube can be your friend. There's a lot of guys that probably document a lot of stuff about how to use certain radios and stuff like that. So take advantage of all the knowledge that's out there, and just kind of look at me as I'm kind of a guy to help you, but I can't help everybody, and I just frankly don't have time for a lot of things that I would like to do for myself even at times. So I'm willing to help in some ways, but I can't like help everybody for every single thing that they need. It's just there's not enough time. I work full time, and my business and everything is just kind of a part-time thing. So I care, but there's plenty of information already out there. So enough about that. Let's just show you the radio really quick, and then we'll get this one ready to send off to you tomorrow. I already made you a video. I have to upload that to my PC. That was just a video, me unboxing it and testing it out before anything, because I don't like to do anything on a radio that's sent in unless I know what I'm looking at. So the radio is perfectly on frequency here. It's great. It's going to do about 40 watts. So this is AM mode. Oops, I got to turn my mic up. AM mode right here. They do about a little over 40 watts, which is, it's really good. It's a dual final radio, so about 40 watts. So here's single sideband right here. 1 2 3 1 2 3. Check check check. 1 2 1 2. Really good radio. So nice clear modulation. You'll never sound distorted or over modulated or anything like this on this radio. It's going to sound great. So that's pretty much it. If you have any more questions or anything, you can ask me. That's fine. When I get time, I will try to help you out. Again, I'm not against trying to help people out, but you got to be patient with me, and if it takes me a long time to get back to you, it's just unfortunately the way it's going lately. And also don't feel bad if you have to message me again or something, because I get emails sent to me all the time, and sometimes they get lost in the shuffle. I try to answer them when I get them. Like I'll basically not look at them until I get a chance to look at it. That's usually when you get an answer. But I get so many emails a day that it literally gets hard sometimes to even daily try to answer 4 or 5 of them, because I don't have a lot of time to do this stuff. So thanks a lot for sending it in, John. All the best to you with your hobby, and hopefully you enjoy a little bit of 10 meter. I'm actually going to put it there for you. That way you can probably make a lot of contacts on this radio on 10 meter just with the power that it has. If you put yourself up a decent like omnidirectional antenna, or even a directional antenna, something for 10 meter, you're going to do really well, especially being down in Florida. So hopefully it works out good for you, and thanks for sending it in, and I'll be in touch with you to get you your tracking number and everything. 7-3, take care.